Beloved soul, there are no coincidences here, and the timing of this moment carries weight. If these words have reached you now, it is because something unseen has been unfolding very close to your life, and heaven wants you aware before anything else is said. Please listen gently and stay present, because what is being revealed is not meant to frighten you, but it may shake the sense of safety you thought was settled. Something has been moving quietly in the places you pass every day, in streets you believed were ordinary and familiar, and the truth has begun to surface in ways that cannot be ignored. There has been attention drawn to your neighborhood, not randomly and not loudly, but carefully, methodically, as if unseen threads were being traced back to a single point. What began in silence, under cover of night, has now reached a moment of recognition, and what was discovered carries a connection closer than you might expect. This is not about chaos or panic, and nothing here is happening by accident. There has been observation, names quietly noted, patterns slowly gathered, and conclusions forming behind closed doors, all while most people remained unaware. You may feel a subtle tightening as you hear this, because your spirit already sensed that something was off long before your mind had proof. Information has been documented and held back for a reason, not to deceive, but to ensure clarity before exposure, because what is involved goes beyond a simple incident. There is a larger design at play, something that tried to hide in plain sight, using familiar surroundings as cover, and now that cover is thinning. What began as a quiet exchange between two officers turned into a confession that carried far more weight than anyone expected. What they uncovered was never random, never accidental, and never without intention. When those words surfaced, it felt like the ground shifted beneath everything you thought you understood. Imagine hearing that realization settle in, the moment when routine becomes revelation and suspicion sharpens into certainty, because from that point forward, nothing could be unseen. The night everything broke open arrived without warning, when hidden cameras tucked into ordinary streetlights captured movements meant to stay invisible and recorded voices that believed they were speaking in safety, and they were caught with their hands deep in matters that were never theirs to touch, not just possessions or numbers, but personal information, intimate details, fragments of a life they assumed would remain forever out of reach. As questioning began, defenses collapsed, and one name slipped out, your street spoken aloud, and in that instant, the investigation crossed a line from theory into proof that could not be undone. Files marked confidential stayed sealed, yet whispers moved faster than ink, carrying the truth that someone close had been compromised, and within those murmurs lay a thread that pulled everything back toward you. Someone believed silence would protect them, that control could be exercised unseen, but heaven does not overlook what harms quietly, and coverings began to tear away. Now listen. When the knock finally echoed through the neighborhood, it carried a sound that lingered long after the door opened, heavy and unmistakable, and officers stepped inside with evidence that spoke louder than accusation, no longer chasing possibilities, but holding facts that pointed closer than anyone expected. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, sensing tension without understanding its source, unaware that the sudden convergence of lights and vehicles was connected to a plan that had circled your life unnoticed. Inside the station, confessions spilled freely, one voice admitting that observation was meant to stay harmless until orders changed and lines were crossed, And even the officers felt the shift as the case transformed into something deeply personal. Documents surfaced containing details no stranger should know, movements traced, patterns mapped, and the question of how such access was gained froze the room when the answer emerged. It was never coincidence, never chance, but a carefully organized design aimed directly at you. And as the money trails and silent exchanges aligned, the truth landed with undeniable force, leaving even seasoned investigators leaning closer, recognizing they were witnessing something far greater than an ordinary crime, a moment where what was hidden could no longer remain so, and the full weight of that realization began to press in. If this message is speaking to your soul, don't wait, like this video and subscribe now to stay connected on this sacred journey. Declare your readiness in the comments by typing, "I am ready now." And let's take this step together in faith. The one behind all of this was never distant or unknown, but someone near enough to breathe the same air, someone who assumed your trust would keep them hidden, and whose carefully worn mask is beginning to crack where everyone can see it. This is the kind of truth that tightens the chest before the mind can catch up, because betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from proximity rather than strangers. The moment everything turned was not loud at first, but heavy, the kind of turning that shifts an entire story, because the investigation reached a point where fragments aligned and silence could no longer protect what was concealed. From the beginning, those following the trail sensed it was larger than it appeared, but when the final connections were made, the weight of it stunned even those trained to expect the unexpected. Files were spread open, photographs laid bare, recordings replayed, each detail threading into a design that felt deliberate and disturbingly intimate. And then a single name surfaced, one that drained the room of sound. This was not a faceless figure or a passing presence, but someone woven into daily life, someone who moved through familiar streets without raising suspicion. Footage revealed whispered conversations meant for darkness, footsteps lingering too close to your walls, exchanges never intended to reach your ears, and confessions followed that exposed a deeper hierarchy, an unseen hand giving direction from closer than anyone imagined. When that finger finally pointed toward the source, disbelief rippled outward, because the truth demanded a re-evaluation of faces once considered ordinary. What unfolded was no longer about catching wrongdoing alone, but about exposing a betrayal that had lived comfortably in plain sight. The reason this revelation circles back to you is not coincidence, but design, because the records showed patterns, movements, and details that only intimacy could supply, proof that attention had been fixed on you with intention rather than chance. As those words were read aloud, the atmosphere changed, the truth spreading like heat, undeniable and irreversible. This was not a casual interest or a passing scheme. It was a calculated focus, a desire to influence and control what was never theirs to claim. The deeper the inquiry went, the clearer it became that this was not driven by profit or territory alone, but by fixation, by the urge to shape your path without your consent. Evidence revealed quiet meetings, discreet exchanges, and a marked list where your name stood, singled out, unmistakable, and central. This was not observation, it was targeting, and even seasoned investigators were left asking why such energy had been spent on one life. The answer is drawing nearer now, because what was hidden is being pressed into the light, and the closer you stay with this unfolding, the more clearly you will see how deliberate every step truly was. The unmasking began the moment the officers placed the betrayer face to face with the evidence they could no longer outrun, and for a breath, the room went silent in a way that felt thick, almost suffocating, like truth itself had weight. Hold still. What came next was not a frantic denial, but a chilling half-smile, the kind that says they truly believed they were untouchable. And if you let that land for a second, you can feel the shock of realizing someone familiar had been playing a hidden game behind your back while you lived your days assuming you were safe. The pressure tightened as files were laid out one by one. Photographs, recordings, witness statements, each piece closing the circle until there was nowhere left to hide. And the air carried that electric tension that happens right before a storm finally breaks. And then the confession came, not softly, but like thunder through the night. A voice caught between pride and defeat, admitting it was never about money, never about property, never about a simple crime, but about possession, about wanting to control what would never be offered willingly. In that single line, the entire case shifted into something deeply personal, because it meant someone had been studying you like a shadow, building a false stage around your life where every movement could be tracked, weighed, and used. And the most unsettling part is how ordinary they seemed while doing it. The investigation revealed how whispers were planted, stories twisted, subtle traps arranged to make you doubt your own instincts, all wrapped in silence so you would question yourself instead of questioning them. Yet silence always reaches its limit. When the police moved in, the walls collapsed fast, and suddenly neighbors who once smiled in passing looked different, not because you became paranoid, but because the truth exposed how easily betrayal can hide in plain sight. The officers followed every thread back to one source, one motive, one unnerving obsession, and when they spoke about it, it sounded less like routine work and more like a warning written into the moment. What was buried has risen, and what was done in darkness cannot survive the light. The identity that hid behind the curtain was forced into the open. Lists with your name marked, plans written down, recorded conversations tying every string back to the same hand, and with each detail read aloud, the power they thought they held weakened until there was nothing left to deny. What comes after this is not just more information, but the final layer that explains why you were centered in the design at all. And once that motive is fully seen, you will understand that this was never random, never casual, and never beyond the reach of truth. When the last confession finally surfaced, everything moved with a speed that felt unreal. The sharp sound of restraints breaking the silence as the illusion collapsed all at once. And the one who once believed themselves beyond reach was led away under the undeniable weight of truth. Breathe for a moment. Neighbors stood frozen, watching disbelief ripple across familiar faces as they realized trust had been abused for far longer than anyone knew, and what had been hidden in plain sight was now exposed without mercy. This was no longer suspicion or rumor, but certainty, sealed by records, images, voices, and words that could not be taken back, each piece stacking into a mountain of proof that stripped away every false sense of control. The moment marked more than an arrest. It was the unraveling of every quiet thread that had been wrapped around your life. The dismantling of plans meant to redirect your path without your knowing. The one who tried to bend your future was forced to face the very system they thought they could manipulate. walked out of the shadows and into the light where secrets do not survive. And in that exposure, something shifted that went beyond justice alone. Whispers moved through the street, not with fear this time, but with relief, carrying the same truth echoed again and again, that what is real always rises, and what is false eventually collapses. In that moment, the weight you carried without a name finally loosened its grip, and the air itself felt clearer, as if clarity had returned to places long clouded. Their fall was not only their ending, it was your release, the quiet breaking of chains you were never meant to wear. Even those tasked with enforcing the law spoke words that felt larger than the moment, acknowledging that no matter how carefully someone plots, destiny is never theirs to command, and no web is stronger than truth. What had been built against you did not stand, because light moved faster than deception and reached deeper than fear. And as attention lingered on the collapse of what was false, something unexpected began to surface beneath it all, something preserved through the chaos, something that had been waiting quietly for you while the noise distracted everyone else. This is not the end of the story you thought was being told, but the turning point into what was always meant to follow. And as the dust settles, what emerges next may leave you still, not from shock alone, but from the realization that even in the midst of betrayal, something greater was being guarded for you all along. As the officers sifted through layers of evidence, opening boxes filled with recordings, seized materials, and sealed documents, one folder quietly drew their attention, marked with a single word that suggested it had been deliberately set apart, and inside were papers never meant to be seen, even by those closest to the operation. When the lead officer opened it, the room shifted, his expression changing as he realized this was not merely proof of wrongdoing, but something far more deliberate, a record of protection that had been quietly holding what belonged to you. Within those pages were opportunities redirected, resources withheld, connections intercepted before you ever knew they existed. And in that moment, what had been taken without your consent began its journey back. The discovery marked a turning from exposure to restoration, because the records showed messages never delivered, agreements signed and hidden, doors closed intentionally with your name written across them, all claimed by someone who never had the right. With their fall, every lock loosened, and what had been frozen in silence started to breathe again. News spread through the neighborhood, not with fear this time, but with awe, as it became clear the investigation had not only removed a betrayer, but uncovered a reserve of truth and promise that had been waiting for you. It was not simply about finances, but recognition long delayed, identity suppressed, and paths blocked before they could open, all brought back into the light in one decisive sweep. When the case was finally reviewed, the lead officer spoke words that carried a weight beyond procedure, acknowledging that in trying to bury their actions, those responsible had unknowingly preserved what was always meant to return to you. Imagine the gravity of realizing that what disappeared from your life was never destroyed, only held back, now re-emerging with greater clarity and strength. As files were stamped and signed, declarations were made that these opportunities and assets were being restored to their rightful place. And in that moment, the story shifted from survival into abundance. The revelation was not just justice served, but destiny reactivated, a confirmation that delays do not erase purpose. What unfolded was more than the closing of a case. It was the opening of a chapter that had been waiting patiently, proving that what was hidden can return multiplied, what was stolen can be reclaimed, and what was deferred can arrive with renewed force. The final words spoken over the evidence felt like a seal rather than a conclusion, affirming that every step of this process, every uncovering and correction, had been guiding you toward elevation, and that what was meant to entangle you had instead become the doorway through which your future now steps forward. What was meant to bring you down became the very ground that lifted you, because their collapse turned into your ascent, and every lie they layered became a rung beneath your feet, while everything they tried to hide was quietly replanted as a future that can no longer be denied. This is not simply about what was returned to you, but about what has been reshaped within you, because restoration alone would have brought you back to where you were. Yet what is happening now is transformation that carries you beyond it. This moment reaches deeper than fairness or correction. It touches destiny itself, revealing that you were not merely spared but carefully preserved, and that doors once sealed are opening in ways no hand can close. What unfolded did not end with answers. It opened a horizon, because what looked like an investigation into wrongdoing became a pathway clearing itself for your next season. Every record uncovered and every opportunity released has begun forming a future larger than the one you were taught to expect, and joy is rising where tension once lived. The same streets that held suspicion now echo with recognition, and the whispers that once questioned your safety now acknowledge your elevation, because light has replaced shadow and clarity has taken its place. This is not a tale of endurance alone. It is the story of a rise that was delayed but never cancelled. Words spoken at the close of the case carried a weight that went beyond procedure, affirming that what was taken has returned multiplied, and what was stalled has gained momentum. And those words were not just about evidence, but about you. Your path has already shifted, and the movement has begun to show itself in tangible ways. As connections once blocked reopen, opportunities return refined, and an identity once dimmed steps fully into view. What tried to restrain you no longer holds power, and what once pressed against you has given way entirely. This is not speculation or hope deferred. It is reality unfolding with intention, proving that the fall of what opposed you was never the end goal but the beginning of your emergence. And as this chapter settles into place, the truth stands clear and steady, that what was designed to contain you has instead revealed how far you were always meant to go. Now let this move gently from hearing into living, not by effort but by alignment, because nothing more is required of you to earn what has already begun. You are not being asked to prove readiness or push yourself into change. You are simply being invited to make room. That may start inwardly, by noticing a thought you have carried for years that says you must struggle to deserve good things, and allowing that thought to loosen its grip, even if it does not disappear all at once. You might sense an old fear rising, one that learned to stay alert because disappointment once followed hope, and instead of fighting it, you can acknowledge it and let it rest, reminding your body that this season is different. Preparation can also take a quiet, physical form, something as simple as opening a window, clearing a small surface, or gently rearranging a corner of your space so it feels lighter, not as a ritual, but as a signal to yourself that you are no longer bracing for loss, but allowing for arrival. In daily life, readiness may look like paying attention to what repeats, a phrase you keep hearing, an idea that returns without effort, a subtle nudge towards something you once set aside, and letting yourself take it seriously without rushing to define it. You may feel drawn to write a few honest lines about what you are hoping for now, not to demand it, but to name it, because naming creates space without pressure. There is no need to watch the clock or measure progress. Alignment grows in stillness as much as in motion. Rest is not a pause in the process, but part of it. And choosing to slow your pace, to eat with awareness, to sleep when tired, or to step back from conversations that drain you, is not avoidance, but wisdom taking shape. Trust in this season may simply mean resisting the urge to over-explain yourself or to anticipate outcomes before they arrive, allowing God to handle what you cannot see while you remain present with what is in front of you. Release happens quietly when you stop rehearsing the past and gently redirect your attention to what is forming now. And receiving often begins when you allow moments of ease to exist without suspicion. You do not need to understand every sign or control the unfolding. You only need to be here, a little more open than yesterday, letting what has already been set in motion find you in its own time, confident that what is meant for you will arrive without force, without striving, and without you having to become anyone other than who you already are. What you have felt stirring inside you as these words unfolded is real, and it carries weight and meaning, even if it cannot yet be named, because truth often reaches the heart before it reaches the mind. Nothing you sensed here was imagined or misplaced. What has been spoken has already been acknowledged, set in order, and released into motion beyond what can be seen, and it does not require your effort to keep it alive. If you are still here in this quiet moment, it is not by habit or chance, but because something within you recognized that this message belonged to you and chose to remain present. What has been sealed is now active, moving gently yet steadily in the unseen, and it will continue without your need to force or control its path. This is not an ending, but a crossing, the soft threshold between what has completed its purpose and what is beginning to take shape, and what comes next will reveal itself gradually, with clarity that arrives in the order it is meant to. As Scripture says, "The Lord will fulfill His purpose for me," and that fulfillment unfolds with patience and care. Carry this moment lightly with you, without urgency, trusting that what has begun will continue in grace. You may go now with a quiet assurance, awake and expectant, leaving space for what is forming to meet you gently in the days ahead. Let us gently enter this moment of prayer together, resting in the quiet assurance that we are held. Faithful God, we come before you not in fear or urgency, but in trust, acknowledging that you have been present in every unseen place, guiding without noise, arranging what we could not orchestrate, and guarding what we could not defend. We thank you for the work already completed beyond our awareness, for the paths cleared in silence, and for the timing that never failed, even when we questioned it. Thank you for the seeds of love, obedience, and faithfulness that were planted in seasons when there was no applause, no confirmation, and no visible reward. Yet you saw every choice, every restraint, every moment of quiet surrender. We recognize that what is unfolding now is not chaos but alignment, not loss but release. And we place this turning season fully into your hands with reverence and trust. Grant peace that settles deeply into the body and steadies the heart. wisdom that illuminates the next step without overwhelming the whole journey, and readiness that flows from confidence in you rather than pressure within ourselves. As it is written, "The Lord goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." And we receive that promise now as a covering that does not demand striving. We offer you what remains unclear, what still aches, and what is still becoming, knowing that you do not waste pain and you do not abandon what you have begun. Bless this life with discernment that is calm, courage that is gentle, and strength that is rooted in rest, so that each step forward is taken without fear. We dedicate the unfolding chapter to you, trusting that you are shaping it with care, patience, and light, and that what is meant to arrive will come without force and without delay. We thank you for walking beside us with compassion, for correcting without condemning, and for remaining faithful as transformation continues. And now, with gratitude, we thank you for praying here together, for sharing this sacred space of trust and stillness. Remember that you are not walking alone on this path, and as you go, may you carry this peace quietly with you, held in assurance, accompanied in grace, and gently guided until we meet again. If your heart feels stirred to speak, you are gently invited to place your words in the comments, not to explain yourself, but simply to be honest. You may share a hope you are holding, a pain that has remained unspoken, a fear that weighs quietly, or a question you have never known how to voice. There is no right way to write, and no pressure to say more than you are ready to release. What is shared in sincerity is already seen by God, and no prayer formed from truth is ever overlooked. As you let these words leave your heart, remember that you are not standing alone in them. You are being met with compassion, carried by grace, and guided by a love that knows you fully. May this space hold you gently as you are, and may peace rest with you as you continue forward.